Welcome to another edition of One on One with Mitch Lafon. Joining me this week, it is drummer Mike Portnoy and his good friend Neil Morse. Before checking that out, please head over to Twitter and check me out at Mitch Lafon and on Facebook, One on One Mitch Lafon. And with that, here is the one, the only, Mike Portnoy. We are speaking with the Winery Dogs drummer Mike Portnoy. Good day, Mike. How are you?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good. And for the record, it was a pleasure seeing you play with Twisted Sister at the Rockfest in Quebec last week. So that was a bonus for me.
Yeah, it was fun, man. It's been a blast playing with those guys. And, the festival on Friday was awesome. It was definitely a change of pace from what I've done with those guys. We were playing in the daylight and a short set. But I'm enjoying each and every show with those guys, regardless of the circumstances.
Yeah. So, speaking of short, you've got this short run of dates with the Winery Dogs that ends on July 10th, and then you've got the cruise later on in the year. What else is coming up for the band at this point?
That's it. We're pretty much winding down this cycle for Hot Streak, which kicked off last October. So I don't know. I think it's been 8 or 9 months on the road at this point. So we're kind of wrapping up, and we've got about 10 shows here in the Midwest, and then, like you said, the Monsters of Rock cruise in October will be the end of the cycle for us. We also have a live DVD Blu-ray from Santiago, Chile that'll be out later in the year, and possibly even a companion CD that will go along with that with some unreleased tracks. So that'll pretty much wrap up the cycle, and then we'll reconvene whenever we're ready. In somewhere down the road in the future.
Since you left the Dream Theater, you've been in Adrenaline Mob and Flying Colors and Transatlantic. Well, you were doing that stuff before, but you've got sort of these 4 or 5 bands going on at once. How do you manage your time and decide which project you're going to do next?
Well, it's there's a lot of scheduling involved, and I have to keep my eye on it, and I have to be real responsible, and basically whatever gets put on the calendar gets my time. And right now my focus is the Winery Dogs and Twisted Sister, and pretty much for the rest of the year I'll be with Twisted, and then start of next year will be the Neal Morse Band. I'll be out with them for maybe the first 4 or 5 months of next year, and there's recordings that happen, and then usually when I have a recording session set up, that will pretty much dictate what's going to happen 6 months down the road. There'll be more Metal Allegiance stuff in the future as well. So I just have to be real responsible and keep my eye on the schedule at all times. And I don't trust that in anybody else's hands. I pretty much maintain all that myself in order to stay on top of it.
Is it sort of refreshing for you as a musician that you're not locked in to one style of music, that in fact you can go do Twisted, which is very different than Flying Colors, which is very different than Winery Dogs? Or just talk to me about that. Is it nice to be able to have those avenues?
Well, absolutely. I mean, that was my goal upon leaving Dream Theaters. I wanted to do lots of different things. I'm a huge music fan of so many different styles and genres. And, I loved what I did with Dream Theater for 25 years, but it was, it was one kind of thing. And I didn't want to spend the rest of my life doing just that with just those 4 guys. I needed to have different musical outlets with different people and musicians in order to really feel truly satisfied with what I have to offer to the world. So I think, what I've done in the last 5 or 6 years has been a real, that's the real Mike Portnoy. It's more about all of those styles. I don't think I ever want to be just one thing. I want to have, a classic rock outlet and a thrash metal outlet and a progressive rock outlet, and have all these different things. And that's what I have with Flying Colors and the Neal Morse Band and Transatlantic and the Winery Dogs and Metal Legion and Twisted Sister. I mean, all those things are, what makes the bigger picture of what I'm about.
Right. Now, I interviewed Neil last week, and in fact, he'll be the second part of this episode. Talk to me about that relationship and where it started and sort of what keeps you two making music together.
Well, the relationship began, I guess, about 20 years ago when I was first introduced to Spock's Beard, right when their first album came out. And I was immediately a fan and immediately connected to Neil's style. He basically was like all my favorite musicians in one. He was writing these big prog epics that were, touching upon Genesis and Yes and Pink Floyd, but he also had this Beatles kind of pop sensibility to him. And immediately I just fell in love with his style of writing, and we connected and became friends and knew that we wanted to work together. So, around 99 or so, I wanted to put together some sort of prog supergroup, and inevitably Neil was the first call. And, we put together Transatlantic in 1999. And, the rest is history. Since then we've gone on to make 17 studio albums together, and we're in 3 different bands together, Transatlantic, Flying Colors, and the Neal Morse Band. And if you count our Beatles tribute band, that would make 4. And basically, we really have a genuine admiration and respect for each other, both musically and personally. We love working together. We have a great rapport with each other. And on a personal level, he's one of my dearest friends and is somebody that's been a real positive influence on my life. So I love working with him for that reason as well.
Speaking of a positive influence on your life, you went through a period that was difficult, being with alcohol and all that stuff. How important was Neil to get you through that time, if at all?
Well, I first got sober in April of 2000. Mm-hmm. And coincidentally enough, my last drink was with the Spock's Beard guys. We were on tour together, Dream Theater and Spock's Beard, in April of 2000. And my last night of drinking was the last night of that tour. And then I got on the plane the next day and went home and immediately sought help and surrendered. So yeah, Neil was a big part of my, recovery and support system during that time. And it was not much long after that where he found God and became a born again Christian, and he left Spock's Beard and Transatlantic as well at the time. So both of us went through huge personal changes around the same time, and I think we were both supportive to each other with that. With my sobriety, he was very supportive, and with his change and his once he became a Christian, I was still there for him and maintained, that musical relationship in his solo career. So yeah, the two of us have had that, we've been through a lot together, and lots of ups and downs through the years, and he's genuinely one of my closest friends on earth.
When you got off that tour with Spock's Beard, what was the moment, or when did you decide that you said, okay, you know what, this is enough. It's time to get help and be a new Mike?
Well, I had pretty much known the writing was on the wall for a while. For the last year or two of my drinking, I knew that I no longer controlled it and it was controlling me. And, every day I'd wake up with a hangover and not remember what I had done the night before from blacking out. And every day I would wake up and say, oh, I'm never drinking again. And sure enough, come nightfall, I could never say no. And sure enough, would find myself drinking and drugging every night, no matter how hard I tried to not do it. And after that last tour in April of 2000, I was on the plane home, and I just said, I need to get help. I've tried to quit 1,000 times, and I can't do it on my own. And the next day I went to 2 doctor's appointments, and both of them told me, if you don't get help, you're not going to reach the age of 40. I was 33 at the time. And, hearing 2 different doctors tell me that and tell me that I need to get to an AA meeting was, a pretty intense slap in the face. And, the very next day I went to my first AA meeting, and by the grace of God and the power of the 12 steps and the program, I haven't had a drink since, and it's been about 16 and a half years.
Wow, that's something. And I'll get off the topic in a second. I just want to ask you about the Dream Theater sort of 12-step suite, or what it's known as the 12-step suite, where you sort of talked about it over these albums. What was the motivation to do that, and was it cathartic in any sense? Did it feel good to do that, to get it out and have it as a musical representation?
Yeah, it was hugely therapeutic for me. And basically what happened was once I got sober, the next record that I was making was Dream Theater's 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence. And myself, as one of the main lyricist in Dream Theater, I always would write about things that were going on in my life. I had always written things that were, relationships with me and family members, or things that were happening in my life. A Change of Seasons was written about my mom passing away, and The Best of Times was written about my dad passing away. So I've always pulled my lyrical subject matter out of things that were happening in my life. So we were about to make the 6 Degrees album, and inevitably I was inspired by, this newfound sobriety that I wanted to write about. And the 12 steps was something that I was really digging into in my real life. But I decided that, writing a song about all 12 steps would just be selling it short. I mean, it's such a mammoth concept that I knew, it needed more than just, one song to really properly cover the ground. So I had this idea of, over the next few albums, writing one song per album that would deal with a few of the steps at a time. So I wrote The Glass Prison on that album, which covered steps 1, 2, and 3. And I had this idea of wherever the one song ended on the next album, the next song would begin. And I always had this idea of eventually piecing all of them together and playing them live in its entirety as one concept piece. Sadly, that never happened, because when I finished this whole process with steps 10, 11, and 12 with the Shattered Fortress, I left the band shortly after. So sadly, I never was able to see through my dream of bringing this concept to life on stage as one piece. And actually, it's going to be announced sometime in the next 24 hours that I actually plan on performing it in its entirety for the first time ever on my 50th birthday concert on Cruise to the Edge in February. So
wow, there you
I'm
go.
finally going to be able to realize this this dream that I've had, and this concept that I started 16 years ago and have not been able to fully complete, and getting to do it on stage will bring the whole thing full circle.
Well, that is going to be an incredible moment, not just musically, but also personally, to see the vision come to life. If I may ask, since it's going to be announced soon, who is going to be the musicians on it? It's obviously not going to be the Dream Theater guys. So who's going to help you realize this?
I'm putting together an all-star band made up of many great friends and amazing musicians, and that much will be revealed on show day. But it's going to be an amazing thing. And, this whole 50th birthday concert that I'm putting together is going to be incredible, because throughout the concert, I'm going to be covering my whole career. Everything I've been a part of through the years will be represented, almost everything. And, there's going to be so many friends and guest musicians throughout the show.
And that, folks, is where Skype decided to quit on us, but fear not, I did call him back. Here is, once again, Mike Portnoy. We are speaking with Mike Portnoy. We got disconnected, Mike, as you were telling me about this 50th not anniversary, but birthday celebration, including doing the 12 steps, 12-step suite, and of course the phone died. Modern technology at its finest, right?
Mm-hmm. Well,
But let
thank
me.
God for the redial button.
I know. So let me just sort of recap here. You said you were going to do your entire musical history at this event. So we're basically going to go from, the glass prison all the way to We're Not Going to Take It. That's going to be somewhat spectacular.
Well, looking at my whole career, I've actually been a part of 25 different bands or projects through my career, and that sounds like I'm making a joke with it. That's an actual correct figure. So no, I won't be covering each and everything. Obviously, things like Twisted Sister and Avenged Sevenfold, those weren't quote unquote my bands. So things like that won't be represented. And things like Metal Allegiance and Adrenaline Mob, which were more metal oriented, won't be represented because it is a prog cruise, and it's Yes's Cruise to the Edge, which is rooted in prog music. So it will be covering a big part of my career, but most of the stuff that is rooted in the prog genre.
Okay, that sounds good. And I know that we only had 20 minutes. We've got about 5 left. Let me get back to Winery Dogs for a minute. Hot Streak was the last album. Being more your band with Billy and Kotzen or Richie, is there any sort of musical direction that you won't do, or is there a freedom to sort of go wherever you want? And could we have a sort of a classic rock sounding album one day and a prog sounding album, or is there a Winery Dogs sound that you want to sort of get out there?
Well, I mean, there's a freedom to do whatever the three of us want to do and wherever we want to go. But of course, that's going to be based on the three of ours styles or backgrounds. So that's why, the common ground between the three of us is kind of that classic rock sound. The bands from the late 60s and early 70s, like The Who and Zeppelin and Cream and Hendrix, that's kind of the common ground between the three of us. All three of us come from different backgrounds. I know I have more of a prog and a metal background. Richie's got more of a funk and a soul and an R&B background. So, what we do in the Winery Dogs is, the stuff that's kind of the common ground between the three of us. I don't think we'll ever get too metal or too prog because that's not really Richie's thing, let's say, or the funk and R&B thing isn't necessarily my thing. So we try to just work within the common ground between the three of us.
Okay, sounds fair enough. And then let me get back quickly because we're running out of time here to Flying Colors. Last album was Second Nature, 2014. You mentioned, or either I read in an interview or you mentioned it earlier, you might start writing again for that. When do you see that group sort of firing it up again and getting another album done?
We're penciled in now to reconvene in December and begin writing. So that's the plan. We'll start writing at the end of this year, and depending on how it goes, possibly have something out by 2017. So we'll see. We'll see how the process goes once we get underway in December.
I'm looking forward to that. And then, of course, let's finish with Twisted Sister. What's it been like working with Dee Snider? He's high intensity, great frontman. Talk to me a little bit about working with that, and of course the DVD that's coming out shortly, the Metal Meltdown. Well,
as I've stated in every interview that I've done about Twisted Sister, for me it's a huge honor to play with the guys because I grew up with them on the Long Island circuit. If you see the documentary We Are Twisted Fucking Sister, that was the period that I was introduced to the band, and before the rest of the world knew who they were. So I have that background with them, and I have that respect for the legacy that the band has built through all these years. So for that reason alone, for me, it's a tremendous honor to be with them now. And AJ was also a friend of mine. So, it's also important for me to honor and respect his legacy as well. In answer to your question, what's it like working with Dee? I mean, Dee is one of the greatest frontmen of all time, and I've said that for the last 25 years, even before I played with the guys. I've always stated that Dee's one of the greatest ever, and Twisted Sister as a band is one of the greatest live bands ever. So, you know, for me to be able to share the stage with these guys is amazing, and Dee is just absolutely commanding of the audience, and I have to also give a lot of respect to JJ as well, because JJ is kind of the Robin to Dee's Batman. And if you see the We Are Twisted Fucking Sister documentary, you realize that JJ is actually the founder of the band and the glue behind it all. So even before Dee was in the band, JJ was working his ass off for the band. And in the early club days, he was, you know, also a big part of the on-stage raps that would go on each and every day. So, you know, just I have tremendous respect for all the guys. And you know, it's been a blast playing with them and, you know, helping them close out this final chapter. And they get the respect that they deserve at these big festivals in Europe. You know, they're headlining all these festivals the same way that Black Sabbath or Metallica or Iron Maiden are. And, you know, over in Europe, they get to headline these big festivals because I think they are acknowledged for the legendary status that they've earned after 40 years of doing this.
Yeah, and they get a 2-hour set, which is what made the Amnesia Rockfest set even more peculiar, was that it was 40 minutes, it was in broad daylight, it was like, holy mackerel, do they not know who Twisted Sister is? But well, anyway, whatever.
Well, I think the festival is aptly named. Obviously, they had forgotten Twisted Sister's legacy.
Yeah, and I hope that while you're there on the bus with the boys, you can convince them to not hang it up. I mean, if we can just get, you know, 12 shows a year, we'll all be happy. We'll all fly out, and you know, it'll be great. Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure.
I would love nothing more for them to continue, because I'm loving the ride with them. So for me, it's kind of a bummer to come on board and then for it to end. So I would love nothing more for them to continue on, but time will tell.
Time will tell. In fact,
but I
was just going to say, can I ask you?
I know once Dee says something, he pretty much means it. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is legitimately it. But you know, I'm a cheerleader as well for them to continue on as well. So we'll see.
Right, and Dee has certainly gone on record criticizing bands that announce farewell tours and then come back. So it would be odd for him to do the opposite. But and then I'll finish with this. Just technically, drumming wise, how is it handling those Twisted Sister songs? AJ was a monster. Is this too easy, too simple, too hard? Is it totally different? How is it for you?
Well, I'm a music fan, and I can appreciate and play all kinds of styles across the board. You know, like we were talking about earlier. So just because I made my career from playing this incredibly progressive music with Dream Theater for 25 years doesn't mean I don't have an appreciation for Twisted Sister or the Beatles or U2 or whatever. You know, to me, good music isn't defined by technicality. Good music is defined by good music. And, you know, one of the things, like we talked about earlier, one of the things that I've been making a point of since leaving Dream Theater is that be doing things that have this diversity and this range. And, you know, playing with Twisted Sister is another piece of that big puzzle for me. And, you know, I'm a professional, so I'm able to, you know, to morph and play whatever musical situation is called for. And first and foremost, I'm going to play for what's right for the song. So it doesn't matter if I'm playing with Twisted Sister or if I'm playing with Avenged Sevenfold, you know, I'm going to do what's right for the song. Yeah, that being said, I do want to point out that AJ was a monster drummer. And if you listen to the studio albums, he was very restrained. But if you had ever seen Twisted live with AJ, he was a very, very busy drummer live. And he was all over the place and had incredible chops. So for a lot of the people that just think, oh, my God, you know, why is Mike Portnoy playing this simple music with Twisted Sister? AJ had incredible chops. And, you know, for me, it's been a blast. But like I said, it's not about technique or how many notes or how progressive or how technical music is. good music is good music, regardless of how many notes are involved.
Yeah, I agree. And I had a chance to see Twisted many times with AJ, the best time being at Heavy Montreal on the same bill as Metallica, and they destroyed the 45,000 or 50,000 that were in attendance. Great band, and great speaking with you today. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, man.
And we'll do this again soon.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Thanks, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And there you have it, folks. My entire chat with drummer Mike Portnoy. Always great to see Mike, and always great to check out the Winery Dogs and his work with Twisted Sister and, well, the other, and I say this facetiously, 37 bands that he's with. With that, let's talk to his good friend and a band that he's part of, the Neal Morse Band. Here is the one, the only, Neil Morse. We are speaking with Neil Morse. The new album is Alive Again, coming out August 5th, 2016, obviously. Pleasure to speak with you, Neil.
Nice to speak with you. How you doing?
Good. So let's just get right into the new album, and then we'll look at some of the past stuff you've done. You've described this Alive Again tour DVD as being one of the finest things you've ever done. Basically, what makes it so good?
Well, the band is amazing.
Right.
And what I meant was, of all the live packages that I've put together over the years, I think this is one of the best. I think the editing is really superb. The band is amazing. The material is really, really good. And just the quality of it is really, really high. And Rich Mauser, the guy who mixes a lot of our records, he did the audio. So the audio is great. And, I mean, it's kind of funny to blow your own horn, right? Like, yes, this is the really greatest thing ever that I was involved in. But I guess that's how you promote stuff, right?
Well, of course, and you certainly don't want to come out promoting something saying, "Listen, we did the best we could. Maybe we'll get it next time." Like that wouldn't sound right, would it?
Right.
No, but
yeah, I guess it's not. If you're going to be doing this, it's not the best time to just be like fully humble. I'll tell you, I am definitely humbled by how great and honored to be playing with this band. I mean, these guys are they're so creative and amazingly diligent about really nailing the stuff, and it's very tight, very excellent. I think it's just one of the best bands out there.
So talk to me a little bit about putting this band together, because, as you look back in your history with Flying Colors, Transatlantic, Spock, Beard, and all this other stuff, you've played with some greats, including Mike Portnoy. How did this band come together? Oh.
Well, Mike, of course, I started working with Mike in the late 90s because he had contacted me. That was back before everybody was contacting everybody, by text and email. He actually called me. Imagine that. And so we started working together, of course, with Transatlantic. And then Randy came in right around the Testimony time. He had contacted me, and I think to do a guest spot on an album he was working on, and then he mentioned that if I needed any help in, my live band, that he was available. And so then I started to work with Randy, and Eric and Bill actually came later. They came, I think it was 2012. I had some YouTube auditions. I thought, man, I would really like to find some players in the U.S. so it didn't cost a fortune to even get together and rehearse. It can be so difficult to just play together, when you're so spread out. At that time, I had a European band and an American band, and I thought, man, I'd love to have just one band that could, really do it all. I was looking for guys that could sing and play really well, so we could sing all the parts and play them, obviously. And we auditioned. We did these YouTube auditions, and then a bunch of people came to Nashville and auditioned for these spots in my band, and that's where Eric and Bill came from.
And the band, of course, is sounding great.
Let me ask you about all the different sort of, and excuse if I use the word brand, but the different brands, like you've got Flying Colors and Transatlantic. You've been doing all these different projects, and the music is different. But why not just have one band and under that one umbrella just do different things? U2 experiments, Madonna experiments, but it's always still just Madonna. It's always still just U2. Why not just have Flying Colors and then all this other stuff just be under that?
Oh, well, each thing is its own animal. I guess you could say there are similarities, but I find them to be very different. It's like the difference between, let's see, what did we all have for dinner last night? We went for a fancy dinner, and my wife had a really good burger. I had swordfish, and the other guy had steak. It was all really good, but very different. I feel like Flying Colors is definitely distinctly different from Transatlantic, for example. What I mean is every ingredient that you add or take away changes the dish.
Right, and so by changing some of the players, then it's no longer Flying Colors, it's no longer Transatlantic. But you stay with Mike through everything. Talk to me about that relationship with Mike. And in fact, I'll be seeing him in person on Friday, so I'm very excited about that.
Oh, great.
Yeah, he's doing a Twisted Sister show up here. What is it about Mike that has, because he went off and did Dream Theater and it was majorly successful, and then he did other stuff, and what keeps you two sort of coming back to each other and working together?
Well, ultimately really it's the music. We're friends, and we appreciate each other, and we're a significant part of each other's lives. Let's put it that way. And we've really, we've bonded as brothers over the years. But ultimately, it's all about the creativity in the music, and of course, Transatlantic was really formed by Mike, and then for me, it was a matter of prayer. I remember praying, when I quit Spock's in 2002, and then a year later, I had all this music that I was hearing and working on that became the Testimony album, and I was praying, well, Lord, I felt like you called me out of that scene. Who do you want me to play music with? And I thought about Mike. I didn't know if he was going to want to do it or not. But I kind of felt in prayer like I should be with him, and I should see if he wanted to play. And of course, when he heard Testimony, he flipped out. He loved it so much, which really surprised me because I don't know. I didn't know if he would like it or not. But so it's that we love the same stuff, and that's what brings us together, really.
Right. Now you mentioned a couple of things there. Production, putting out albums, and getting stuff done, and you also mentioned praying and the Lord. Your last album that was. I don't want to call it religious, but you did an album this year called To God Be the Glory. Talk to me about that album and how important it is for you to put your faith into song and get that to fans.
Oh, well, the To God Be the Glory album was, it's a pretty straight ahead, Christian pop sort of worship album. And I think it's great. I really like it. I made it with some other guys, some younger guys. Gideon and Gabe Klein played a major role in that album, and there's some guest vocalists and things. And I just think the songs are really, really strong. And I write a lot of different kinds of music. When I'm just sitting around on a beautiful day outside with the guitar or something, I will just, come up with sometimes songs that don't really fit a Transatlantic album or a Neal Morse Band album. And so I write worship music, I write Broadway musicals, I write like a lot of different kinds of music. And so sometimes I make these different records. I make pop records. And sometimes I'm inspired by other people's music, and I'm like, man, I'd like to make a record like that. I don't always want to do this the same kinds of things. I like to, like I think a lot of artists do. You want to, well, we've done that. Let's try doing something different and, mixing it up. But I didn't think "To God Be the Glory" album is one of the best worship albums I've ever made. If you're into that sort of thing.
Yeah. I actually checked it out before the interview, and it actually, it's a well put together album. So I'm going to have to go back after and check out some more. But I do want to talk to you about how many albums you put out and how much music, because you are super, super productive. There's the inner circle part of the fan club, but you basically put out 7 albums a year. I mean, there's an album coming out every 2 months. How do you do it? How do you keep inspired? How do you keep sort of quality control over all of that? And talk to me a little bit about that for fans who don't know about this fan club where a CD basically shows up every 2 months.
Yeah. Well, with great difficulty. That's how I do it. No, somehow there's always some cool thing to do or to give to the inner circle. The inner circle, it's like a subscription thing where you pay a certain amount each month, and then you get every month you get like a newsletter, and every other month you get a CD or DVD or something, and you also get special events like the morning of Morse Fest, Saturday morning. We're going to do an exclusive little like jam session with Spock that only Inner Circle members can come to, and stuff like that. And so that's going to be really fun. And I guess I started it because many times we have things, CDs. We have music and video and stuff that isn't really good enough to be what you'd call a frontline release, but a lot of the fans would really like it. And so I thought, maybe I should do this to have an outlet. Like, for example, the Inner Circle release for July is something called Falling for Forever and the Kansas Demos. Last year, the folks at Inside Out asked me if I could write some stuff for Kansas. They were looking for material, so I got inspired and I wrote some stuff, and Ted Leonard from Spock sang on it. But it didn't get used, and so, I put it on the Inner Circle record, and then Falling for Forever, the original demo, that's a song that Spock and I recorded for the best of, like kind of bonus track for the best of disc that came out at the end of last year. And so, it's stuff like that. It's demos and, bootlegs, DVDs of concerts, and, tour documentaries, stuff like that.
Yeah, because it does look impressive. I mean, I was looking through the discography, and 2015, 7 releases, 2014, 6 releases, and so on and so forth, going all the way back to 2005. And it's like, holy mackerel! I mean, that's impressive. You did mention Morse Fest. Let's talk a little bit about that. That is coming up on July 1st and 2nd in, I believe it's Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to play the entire Snow album.
Yes.
Talk to me about the Snow album. Talk to me about this concert, because you were with Spock's Beard up until 2002. The Snow album drops, and it actually came out on my birthday that year, so you got to love that. And then you walked away. So what does that album mean to you, and what is it going to mean to you in July to get back and play it with these guys and say, hey, you know what? We haven't done this in 14 years, but man, here we are.
Well, it's really interesting.
Right.
I think there's stuff in that album. There's emotions in the Snow album that I hadn't really let myself experience. I've discovered that as I've been listening to it. I started listening to it several weeks ago, every morning on my morning walk, just listening to it. And I was really moved. I'd be just like walking around by myself crying, and I think it's got a real depth to it. for me, and I think for some of the guys, it was such a painful period that I never really listened to it after we made it, but maybe one time, really. So it's a lot for me to learn because I'm not that familiar with it, with any of the words and things. But I think I feel like it's an important completion, and I feel like it's the right time for it, and I'm looking forward to what God's going to do with it. Interesting side note, at this little church that I've started in Nashville, we've been volunteering at the Nashville Rescue Mission where all the homeless people are. And so I'm down there like serving these homeless guys, and the music of Snow is going through my mind. And if you know the story, it's about a guy who starts a street mission for homeless people, really, and addicts and stuff in New York, and all the things that happen with that. And I don't know, to me it just seems like it's all very timely, and it's really interesting in my own mind. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what it means to other people.
Well,
you know, what is it going to, what kind of effect is it going to have on the audience? You know, because a lot of people, as I traveled around Europe last time I was there, they were telling me, and some of them were crying as they were telling me what this album has meant to them. Like, it came along at a time in their life when they were really needing something and they were searching. You know, so I feel like God has really used it in ways that I couldn't even see. And so I'm really emotionally charged up about what's going to happen.
Yeah, I can imagine, because, you know, for a lot of people, it was the period at the end of Spock's Beard. I mean, the band obviously did some stuff after, but why was it a period for you? I mean, you know, you obviously went on and did other music. You did the Transatlantic, the Flying Colour. You didn't just sort of retire. Why did you think you needed to pull away from Spock's Beard, you know, and your brother's band? I mean, you were two in there at that time.
I couldn't really tell you.
Okay.
I mean, all I can say is that in prayer I felt like that's what I needed to do. But I don't always have God doesn't always give me the why.
Right. Did Alan look at you and say, "Hey, what are you doing here? We've got something good going on. Why are you leaving me high?" I mean, first of all, did he feel like you were leaving him high and dry, or did he say, "All right, I get it. You got to do something else"?
Well, I'll just say that for all of us, it was a process.
Right.
Different kinds of grieving, different kinds of spaces of emotional stuff, you know, because it was a loss. I think everybody went through like what is it called?
The stages of grief, you know,
stages of grief.
Denial, anger, and all that.
Yeah, bargaining, acceptance, right. all of that. You know, I think we all went through it at different times. I went through it before I told them because I was feeling it for 8 months or something before I finally actually did it, you know. So then once I kind of dropped the bomb on them, then they started going through the process. So it was different for all of us. There isn't a single way, just like, you know, how grief is different for everybody. But it was definitely a grief because we were very close. And foolish me, I didn't really realize that I wasn't going to see them very often, just as people after that. You know, I see my brother because, you know, I go to California and see my family, but you know, I don't see the other guys very much, and I didn't really think about that. I was just really focused on what I felt like God wanted me to do and trying to do His will as best I could, and
right.
And I feel like that is what happened, and I mean I feel really good about it, but it's not easy.
Have you looked back in the last 14 years and said, maybe I could have done this differently, maybe I could have just taken 2 years off, or in a sense, is there any regrets that I didn't think this through? I just walked away, and like you were just describing how the other guys had to go through stuff, and you hadn't thought about that. Do you look back at it now and go, maybe I could have handled this differently. Maybe we could have gone on in 2005 and 2008 and not just stop there.
I never really have.
Okay.
I've never felt like, in my spirit, I've never felt like I was about that situation anyway, like that I was ever out of the will of God. I never felt like, mainly I felt sorry, for any pain that I might have caused anyone, the guys in the band and the audience. I mean, people have told me now, like, that it, for certain people, it was a big drag for them too, so I feel bad about that. I feel there are people at the record company that suffered because of it. You don't really realize it. I didn't realize all of that when it was going on. But anyway, no, I haven't really looked back with any regrets about it.
But on July 1st, you'll get to come full circle. Flying Colors, the last album was 2015, right? You had the Second Flight. And Second Nature was 2014. Is that band still active? Will there be another Flying Colors? Because it got rave reviews. I mean, the two albums fans really, really hung on to and love. Will there be a third studio album?
I believe so.
Okay.
We haven't even started writing it yet, but there is rumblings of some writing sessions in the latter part of this year, and I'm hoping that, not promising, because it's a creative process. You never know what's going to happen, but I'm hoping to have a new Flying Colors in 2017. And 2017 is going to be a rocking year.
It's going to be a busy year. Can the same be said for Transatlantic? Is there something else in the offing for that?
I think there will be another Transatlantic. I don't know when.
Okay.
That is, kind of hanging out there, and I think it's really not up to me this time. We'll just have to see when the guys want to do that.
Gotcha. Now, you've mentioned that you do Broadway plays. You've done the worship albums. Which sort of all of them is your preference? Because you're known, I guess, mostly for the progressive rock stuff. Is one of them your favorite? And which one do you sort of want to be known for?
Well, I think the prog stuff is my favorite, really.
Right.
So I'm glad to be known for it, and I'm glad for the freedom that there is in it, and the wonderful openness and acceptance of the prog fans and the loyalty. I remember when we first put June on the Kindness of Strangers album with Spock, we were wondering if the prog fans would accept it because it was so normal. It's a pretty normal song, really, and it turned out to be one of the most popular. Same with We All Need Some Light with Transatlantic, So I don't know. I feel like the prog fans are just awesome. They're really open to regular songs and weird bits and orchestral parts, and you can pretty much do whatever you're feeling to do. And if it's quality, they'll accept it. It's great.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I also agree that the prog fan base is similar to the heavy metal fan base, whereas they'll be loyal to a band for 30, 40, an Iron Maiden fan of 1980 is probably still a fan today, just like, Porcupine Tree or anything like that. Just a great fan base, absolutely fantastic fan base.
That's awesome.
The new album is, of course, Alive Again. Neil, it's been an incredible pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, it's absolutely
Thank
wonderful.
you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I look forward to getting reports, because I won't be in Tennessee for the Morse Fest, but I certainly look forward to seeing stuff on your Twitter and Facebook and whatever else, wherever you can get the news, because it's going to be a heck of an event. Seeing Spock's Beard doing that classic album, everybody, and of course the human element of you guys together again is going to be something unique and special, I think.
Oh yeah, and plus Jimmy and Ted.
Yeah.
That's really going to put it over the top, I think. And I'm really excited about it. And plus, at Morse Fest we have like the screens, and we've got like there's a guy who does this video wall stuff while we're playing that's just amazing, and the production level is so high, and so it's going to be epic.
Absolutely is. Thank you, sir. And we'll do this again, because I know that you have a release every couple of months, so we've got plenty to talk about.
Right. That's great, man. Take care.
Thank you, Neil. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Bye.
And there you have it, folks, my interview with Neil Morse. This was a prog rock fan's dream episode, I believe. Mike Portnoy and Neil Morse. Thank you to them both. Check me out on Twitter at Mitch Lafon, and one-on-one Mitch Lafon on Facebook. Thank you for listening, and thank you to all the different websites that take and promote these interviews by posting about them. So thank you to all. There you go. Bye for now. Oh my.